So, as I was saying, what Nietzsche's up to here is a criticism of Christian morality, right? But it's not just specifically Christian morality. There are a lot of passages where he's quite critical of the sort of Judaism of the Jewish people as well, but he's not an anti-Semite, right? What he does is he is critical of any idealism in morality. It's these fixed ideas that become more real than the world we're in, right? Than physicality, than health, than vitality, right? These ideas are more important than the world, right? And he's critical of that. Likewise, he's just as critical of Buddhism, with its karmic theory and its idea of nirvana, which Nietzsche takes to be nothingness. Mind you, this is a misunderstanding of Buddhism, but nonetheless, it's the one that Nietzsche perpetrates. Right? So, right? Now, Nietzsche points out that this master morality, if you were to encounter it, it would be extremely brutish. Right? It would be harsh, it would be unrelenting. If it wants something, it takes it. Right? If it's able to dominate, it will. That sort of thing. Right? But in a beautiful passage on your page 29, Nietzsche points out that still the primarily affirmative morality is kind of preferable to this primarily negative morality. Evil, 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 we must oppose evil. Oh yeah, we're good. Right? Versus the master morality, which says we must attain the good. We must attain the good. We must attain the good. Nope, that's not good, don't want that. Right? So this beautiful passage from 29 right, reads that lambs bear ill will towards large birds of prey is hardly strange, but is in itself no reason to blame large birds of prey for making off with little lambs. And if the lambs say to themselves, these birds of prey are evil, and whoever is as little a bird of prey as possible, indeed, rather, the opposite, a lamb, should he not said to be good? Then there can be no objection in setting up an ideal like this, even if the birds of prey might look down on it a little contemptuously and perhaps say to themselves, we bear them no ill will at all, these good lambs. Indeed, we love them. There is nothing tastier than a tender lamb. To demand of strength that it should not express itself as strength, that it should be a will to overcome, overthrow, dominate, a thirst for enemies and resistance and triumph, makes as little sense as to demand of weakness that it should express itself as strength. Right? So what this passage illustrates, while the master moralities, every action is an act of love, even the brutal. Right? Slave morality is born of resentment, finds behind every action that same hatred and resentment. Even its acts of love are love of us and those like us from the very formation of its concept of the good. Right? Further, the us celebrated by the slave morality demands of all that they become just like them. Right? Whereas this master morality, right, does whatever the heck it wants. Right? It can become whatever it wants. So the many and varied expressions of power, health, vitality, competition, what have you, right, are all acceptable, right, as points of resistance to this master morality. And this master morality values resistance because it's a challenge to itself. Whereas the slave morality, right, this weaker morality that's born of resentment, hates anything that is not it. Right? It posits an us that we love, right, and a them that we must oppose. Right? So, right, even the acts of love of this slave morality serve to and originate from this act of resentment, which is an act of initial hatred. Right? So what Nietzsche is up to here is demonstrating that this kind of morality, right, that we have come to adopt, we have come to accept, right, and all of its moral prejudices that go along with it, right, has an amoral origin. Right? The master morality was an egoistic statement. Right? I'm powerful, I like myself, I'm powerful, I'm healthy, I'm vital, I enjoy competition, I like to challenge myself, etc., etc., etc. And everything that's not competitive, powerful, furtherance to my health and vitality, etc., right? Then I don't want that. We'll just call that bad and put that over here. Likewise, is slave morality with its fixed ideas, its concept of good and evil, its delineation between us and them is an act of initial hatred. It is spawned from this resentment. Right? So in either case, what we find behind the root of this morality, right, is something psychological, not something transcendental, right? No sort of absolute idea of the good, right? But rather, right, two divergent attempts to dominate, to overcome, to overpower. Right? And in some beautiful passages, Nietzsche points out of this slave morality that it's getting quite good at this. Right? At this delineation between good and evil, at positing an evil enemy that must be overcome. It's become quite good at resenting. Right? And even all of the religious baggage that comes along with this concept, Nietzsche points out that eventually this will even become a hindrance. Right? We no longer need the religion. We've got Kant, we've got Mill, right? We've got these other moral theories that do it just as well without the whole grab bag of religious beliefs that you have to take on faith. Right? Reason alone can become resentful. Right? It can deny life. Right? So, right, what we find in this slave morality is, well, a denial of life. How so? Right? Well, this is kind of weird. Right? Insofar as what's valued by slave morality is whatever is like itself, weakness, resentment, hatred. Right? It fosters these things en masse because it opposes whatever is not itself. Right? And what's more, the religious concept of good and evil, right, as you get from angels and devils on either shoulder, that sort of thing, as you get from the traditional opposition to, you know, healthy, sensual, vital, sexual kinds of urges, right? Well, what you get from that is a life-denying philosophy. Right? One that assumes that this life here as we now live it, where we're weak and we have to suffer and that sort of thing, is not a good thing. Right? If you've got a choice between heaven and here now, this life as you live it, which would you choose? Right? If you really believe in God and eternal reward and that sort of thing. Right? Do you want to be in this life that is a vale of tears, or do you want to be in the land of milk and honey? Right? Well, how do you get to the land of milk and honey? You die. Right? So, implicit to this slave morality is, Nietzsche argues, a death wish.